What's up, bitches? So I just tried to do a live stream before. Just like a random shooting the shit kind of live stream. But come to find out, live streaming is not as easy as you might think it is. So I'm thinking, yeah, I'll go to the back end of the YouTube channel, you click 2 or 3 buttons, and boom, you're live. It turns out that's wrong. Wrong. So I tried that, and then it hits me with, you got to get this thing called OBS. And so then I got OBS, and then I go to do the test run, and it's like not showing me, and it's a massive lag, and then it also says, you want to do it with other encoding options? And I'm like, what the fuck does encoding even mean? And then it says something about Google Hangouts. I'm like, why are you talking about Google Hangouts now? I'm trying to do a YouTube live stream, and I just got this thing OBS that I thought would let me do a YouTube live stream. It's just, nothing's fucking easy. It's like life. It's so easy when you're sitting there and looking at somebody else's life. You're like, oh, I know how to fix that person's situation. Dude, listen, all you gotta do is... And then you give them the advice. But then when it's your own, you're like, oh, what the fuck do I do here? That's exactly what it's like. You would think like something as simple as live streaming on YouTube. It's like, well, you just click a fucking button and you go. It's like, no, there's fucking keys and codes, and you gotta fucking approve it through 3 bureaucratic boards. So anyway, I decided to do it the old-fashioned way, which is just tweet that I want to talk to you and have you ask me questions. So that's what I did, and now we're gonna go through some of the questions here. How's that sound? Do you even lift, bro? From Regular Dude. Yes, I do. I used to lift a lot, bro. But no, I've been slacking. For years I've been slacking. I feel like most people go through, this is made up, but I feel like most people go through a gym phase, you know, in their 20s at some point, or their late teens, and then they stick with that for a while, and then after a while they're like, what am I doing? I'm just lifting heavy shit. So I've been out of the gym game on the regular basis for a while. Every now and then I get a burst of, oh, I'll do it for whatever, 2 months or whatever, then you fall off. But to answer your question, I do even lift, bro. And also, we gotta try to get a thing going. I mean, I don't know how many of you guys would want to join me, but we were talking about this on Kyle and Corin. We gotta give each other the feedback and the mental boost and the positive reinforcement to start on January 1st with some of this stuff, because I'm down for that. I like to draw a clean line. Okay, now we're in 2018, and then from here on, we're not fucking around, guys. We're gonna have a good diet. We're gonna work out. You know, however many days a week, whatever you can have in your schedule. But that's what I'm going to do. January 1st, it's a wrap, son. I say that, but then by January 14th, I'll be like, anyway, let's pretend like January 1st didn't even happen. We're done. Leon asks. Leon is Nintendo. He does all the Kyle and Corin, so everybody go follow him on Twitter. And by the way, just so everybody knows, if you do follow him, you get the Kyle and Corins like a little bit earlier. Just so you know. That's, you know, they get released on Secular Talk, but they are pre-released, if you will, from Leon. So he asks, who are the top 20 right-wing twats on Twitter in your opinion? Good googly moogly. I don't know, Leon. That's a tough question. Now, you're asking specifically about Twitter here, which actually makes the question harder, because then some are kind of eliminated, right? Some right-wing assholes are eliminated, because it's not like Michael Savage, the right-wing radio host, is on Twitter. At least I don't think he is. So I don't know. But I do know that Ben Shapiro's a dick. You know, I read a great takedown. In fact, you know what? While we're on my Twitter feed, let's go find it. I tweeted it earlier today. Let's see. Sorry. Phone's going off. Here we go. So this guy, Nathan J. Robinson, he wrote a great article. One on Ben Shapiro, another one, Lessons from Chomsky. The one on Chomsky, it's brilliant, and it puts into words thoughts about Chomsky that I've had, but I haven't really been able to express. So, Chomsky was a big influence on me. I read a lot of his stuff, and Nathan J. Robinson really kind of explains to me almost why I like Chomsky. And so I recommend this article, Lessons from Chomsky in Current Affairs. So check that out if you have the time. It's a long read, but I thought it was worth it. Sorry for the laggy speed here. This is a shitty this is a shitty laptop. Lessons from Chomsky. Very, very good piece. But he also wrote The Cool Kid's Philosopher. And this is about Ben Shapiro. Now, as I said in the tweet here, I disagree with and am confused by certain parts here and there in this article. But overall, it is a fucking vicious and pretty good and accurate takedown of Ben Shapiro. Now, I'm going to warn you guys up front. You have to get over the almost like the self-righteous, smug, indignant tone of the guy who wrote it. But because he wrote it, it's almost like he's writing to people who are already inclined to agree. So if you're already inclined to agree, then you're going to digest this article easily. But if you're not, then it'll feel, it feels a little gross at times because of how he phrases it. Like here, let's just read the first part here. It's easy to laugh, as some of us do, at the phrase conservative intellectual. Like right there, some people are already going to be like, well, fuck this guy. But, I mean, I tend to agree with him on that point. When the most prominent public spokesmen for the right's ideas include Milo Yiannopoulos, Charles Murray, and Dinesh D'Souza, one might conclude that the movement does not have anything serious to offer beyond feminism is cancer, black people are dumb, and Democrats are Nazis. Those are, as I understand it, the central intellectual contributions of Milo Yiannopoulos, Murray, and D'Souza, respectively. So, like, you get the sense that he's a little bit flippant in like, how he's introducing it here. But this is a long read, but when you get into the meat of it, it's actually anything but that. He's anything but, like, super flippant. He really, really dissects Ben Shapiro. And, what he is. Because basically the gist of it is, listen, he talks really fast, and, he himself is kind of smarmy and smug and condescending, and he uses a lot of, like, logical fallacies as he gets into in this piece. But when you really dig deep, there's no there. Like, he has some really unbelievably shitty and odious ideas that it's amazing that he's even having this moment where he's, like, really popular. So anyway, check that out if you get the time. But I want to show you the other Ben Shapiro tweet that I had the other day, because, again, this is one of those moments where I think it unmasks Shapiro for what his ideology is. It's an old tweet. It's from 2010, but it really just fucking shows what this guy's all about and how he might try to put some layers over it today and might try to add a little more nuance to his take today. But look at this. Look at this. Israelis like to build, Arabs like to bomb crap and live in open sewage. This is not a difficult issue. Hashtag settlements rock. Are you fucking kidding me? That's one of the dumbest tweets I've ever read in my life. Can you imagine typing that and thinking you make sense, and then somehow getting a movement that thinks you're some sort of genius? Some sort of brilliant thinker? Hashtag settlements rock. So in other words, yeah, when we, when Israelis occupy the Palestinians illegally under international law, when they do brazen land grabs, it doesn't count. It doesn't count. When we violate international law, it doesn't count. It's totally cool because, we're inherently superior, they're inherently inferior. And the Arabs, they like to bomb crap and live in open sewage. This is like the definition of bigotry. If you couldn't have a computer give you a better tweet that's just like, here, this is what bigotry looks like. So, and then also it's just hilarious. Arabs like to bomb crap, right? So that's what he says there. What do we have here? Oops. U.S. bombed Iraq, Syria, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Libya, Yemen, Somalia in 2016. Why did the U.S. drop 26,171 bombs on the world last year? It doesn't count. Doesn't count. It doesn't count. When Israelis violate international law, it doesn't count. When the U.S. violates international law, it doesn't count. When we kill civilians, doesn't count. But those fucking Arabs, man, you know how they are, fucking violent, bombing shit, and living in open sewage. And in that current affairs article, there's such a great point. They're like, it's funny how this guy who thinks he's such an intellectual, if he were to see somewhere like a story about how there are Palestinians living in open sewage, it's like he pawns that off to the inherent nature of somebody who's Arab, as opposed to, I don't know, maybe the fact that they're under occupation and there aren't that many supplies that are allowed into Gaza, and, they've kind of been starved from the outside by the Israelis, and like, hey, maybe it's not like they're choosing to live in open sewage for the ones who are, you fucking jackass. But anyway, I'm sorry, Leon, I'm not going to get into the top 20. I had a little voice crack there. It's like I'm still a boy in puberty. I'm not going to get into the top 20 shitty conservatives. But I will tell you, Ben Shapiro nowadays is kind of high on my list. Steven Crowder's always been high on my list too, because Steven Crowder, he thinks Hitler's a liberal. I'm not making that up. I'm not making that up, man. I'm not making that up, I swear. Oh, it's not Steven like that. It's Steven like this. Steven Crowder. Hitler is liberal. Let's see. Unbelievable. Look, from his own website, in case you think, that's his own video, in case you think we're straw manning here. This is his own website. Louder with Crowder. Myth busted! Actually, yes, Hitler was a socialist liberal. Dun, dun, dun. I'm Steven Crowder, and I defy anything I don't like as being liberal, yeah. Anything that's bad that's ever happened is the fault of the liberals, yeah. I'm so young and edgy and cool. Oh, come on, man, come on. I'm adult enough to be able to acknowledge the fucking people who are on the left who are monsters. Look at Steven Crowder. Look at what he does. He's fundamentally incapable of admitting that any, historical barbarian, any obviously negative character in history is a right-winger, because he has to protect, I have to protect my sweet, sweet right-wingers. It's part of my narrative. It's part of my narrative. I can't ever admit fault on my side, which is why you're a fucking jackass. And it's amazing. And by the way, dude, just chill with the... I mean, okay, now I'm being a dick, but I'm telling you, he's got issues. Look at this. Look at this. Steven Crowder in dress. I'm not just saying this to be a douche, although I am being a douche, but Steven Crowder finds an excuse every 2.5 weeks to dress up as a woman. And look, man, I mean, I kind of feel bad for the guy in one sense, because he obviously has some sort of deep seated issue where, like, he's like trans on some level. Like, he wants to be a woman on some level. But he's so invested in acting like transgenderism doesn't exist, or it's some sort of mental disorder or something, that he would never allow himself to be happy and become trans. But I swear, I've seen how, and even his own fans have noticed this and been like, shit, man, you keep doing this. you keep finding excuses to dress up like a woman. So look, I'm not, dude, I believe in freedom. You can do whatever the fuck you want to do. But I just find it weird because it strikes me like he's kind of being like those Republican politicians who are super anti-gay and they run on family values and, you know, they act like being gay is evil and wrong and terrible and immoral, and then they get caught blowing some dude in a New Jersey Turnpike bathroom. Well, that's what happened. I mean, Crowder strikes me as he bashes transgenderism all the time, but somehow there's 1,000 pictures of him dressed as a woman online. So I'll leave it at that. I'll let you guys draw your own conclusions, but yeah, I don't know. There's something going on there. I think there's something going on there. But anyway, so Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder, some of the worst right-wingers on Twitter. Joe Walsh is pretty bad. He's a former congressman. He says stupid shit all the time. But I don't know. I don't know about all the worst ones on Twitter. There's a bunch of shitty ones. Oh, here we go. Look at this. Drizzy Drew. By the way, he does the Secular Talk animated series. So if you go follow him, you will get those sooner. Just so you know. If you go follow him, you'll get those sooner. So that's, so these are little tricks of the Secular Talk trade. If you want to, like, get the Secular Talk animated early, you want to get the Kyle out of context early, you follow Drizzy Drew. You could copy it from right here, and you follow Leon, Nintendo. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Oh, I didn't even answer his question. The Ass Man test. Marry, boff, kill? I think it's supposed to say fuck, marry, kill, right? Why do you put boff? Is that a typo? Or do I not know the cool new lingo? Jennifer Lopez, Kim Kardashian, Beyonce. Okay. Sorry, Jennifer Lopez, I'm gonna have to kill you. And the reason I say that, J-Lo in her prime is like A1 for me, okay? But she's older now. She still looks amazing. But she lost that defining fucking, like, flawless booty, in my opinion. I mean, she's still absolutely gorgeous, drop-dead gorgeous. But she had that, like, no-holds-barred, like, famous ass, world-famous ass. It was so nice. But now it's, like, smaller, and she's older, and she's more fit now than she is thick. You know what I mean? So Jennifer Lopez is going to have to get rid of you, sorry. I'll marry Beyonce just because she seems like I don't know if she seems like a really good person. She doesn't seem like an obviously shitty person. I feel like me and her would get along on a lot of stuff, like politics-wise, probably. But maybe not, I don't know. Kim Kardashian, fuck, Beyonce, kill. We'll go with that. No, wait, what did I say? Beyonce, marry, I'm sorry. Jennifer Lopez, kill. Beyonce, marry, because I think we'd get along the best. And Kim Kardashian, fuck. Okay. What are your thoughts on the Laurier University TA story? Okay, so that's, for those of you who don't know, that's a woman who, actually, hold on one second. I want to respond to this text real quick. Okay. Where was I? What are your thoughts on this Laurier TA scandal? Sorry, I'm pouring a drink in the background here. What are your thoughts on the Laurier University TA story? So what happened with that is there was a basically like an assistant teacher who played a clip of a debate on gender pronouns in a class that was on grammar. And I guess the brass at the school figured out about it or heard about it because one student complained or something. So I guess the principal or whoever called this teacher's assistant into their office And then they kind of like told her like, this is not acceptable. You can't play that clip. And she's like, why can I not play it? Because it was a debate between Jordan Peterson and somebody else about the use of gender pronouns. Like, you know. And they basically said to her, listen, this is like, you're debating something that's not debatable. This is like debating climate change. It exists. To try to teach the other side of it is not, it's not legitimate. It's like trying to teach both sides of evolution. Well, there's really not two sides of evolution. So no, you can't do that. So, I don't agree on this one with the principle, because I think that the issue that they were debating actually was debatable. Because it's not... So Jordan Peterson, I disagree when he says, oh, I'm not going to call trans people by what they want to be called. So that's just you being a dick. That's not like a free speech issue. I mean, you have the right, if you want to call somebody who's a transgender woman a man or something. Like, you could do that, but you're just a dick. You're not... It's not like you're some sort of brave hero or something. Like, oh, I'm going to be a dick to this person who's already experienced a lot in their life and are going through a lot. It's like, wow, okay. But there are other issues in the pronoun realm that I think are open for debate. Like Z with XI and stuff, like using that as some sort of, like, oh, you need to call this person by that because they don't want to be affiliated with like either gender. So you call them Z. Well, no, that's not like, it appears to me like society has not said, okay, we're all down with that. So it's almost like it's kind of made up very recently. So I think, of course, it's still debatable. So if that's what she was showing in class, and by the way, the teacher's assistant said, I don't even agree with Jordan Peterson. I just thought that this was good to get the class interested so that we can then go on to talk about gendered pronouns. And I don't think she's wrong about that. I actually agree with the principle on the broader question. The broader question being, hey, are some things not debatable? Well, the answer is of course. You're not going to teach both sides of math like, oh, teach 2 + 2 = 4 and 2 + 2 = 22. That's bullshit. That's false equivalence. That's relativism. It's just nonsense. Same thing with climate change. Same thing on a bunch of issues that I think the right would insist are debatable, even though they're not debatable. But on this one, I actually think there's a discussion to be had. And then the whole Jordan Peterson thing gets even more complicated, because Jordan Peterson, like, okay, so I think he's overrated and he has some really goofy ideas. He thinks porn is terrible and bad for people, and he's religious and, all this stuff. And he's a dick when he says, I'm not going to call trans people by their preferred pronoun. But then also he was fighting against like this arbitrary human rights code or something in Canada that said like, I don't want to fuck up the story, so I hope I'm being totally accurate with how I'm presenting this. But it was like in the human rights code that you can't call people by the wrong pronoun. Like they added that to it. Like it's considered like a form of violence, and it's illegal if you call somebody who's trans by the wrong pronoun. Now, again, I think you're a dick if you call them by the wrong pronoun, if they tell you, hey, call me this, and then you don't. But I don't think that should be illegal. And then, of course, the counter-argument is, well, but they're not locking anybody up. So it's just like almost like illegal on paper, but they don't do anything about it. Yeah, but still, like, that shouldn't be illegal. Like, there can be things that we all agree somebody's a dick if they do them, but they're not illegal. Like, if somebody cheats on their husband or wife, like, you're a fucking asshole. But it's not illegal, and it shouldn't be illegal. You see what I mean? I feel like the same thing should fall under for gender pronouns and not calling people by the preferred one. So if he seems to be fighting against, like, the codification of language, like making laws around speech like this, or making speech codes on campuses that are kind of set in stone. And he's arguing against that. And on that front, I agree with him. I mean, he makes it hard to be a sympathetic character because he's so full of himself and he's so douchey and he's so wrong about so much. But on that core issue, I think he's right. And I don't know, I just think it's a shame that I feel like he's almost been bolstered up by people who really are a little too PC and a little too authoritarian left. they've opened the door for people to perceive him as a hero. But in terms of the TA at that university, I wouldn't have punished her. I mean, whatever. It might not be the best clip to show, but I don't think it's horrendous, and I don't even think it's counterproductive necessarily. So that's my take on that. If LeBron wins this season, do you think he's better than Jordan? Well, let's see. How many rings does LeBron have, and how many rings does Jordan have? Jordan has 6. How many rings does LeBron have? Oh, he's only has 3. So if he wins this season, no, you still got to go Jordan. I mean, look, this is a difficult conversation to have because obviously if you go, there's so many ways to evaluate who's the best and who's not the best. So you could go by individual stats, but I think we all know if you just go by individual stats, that's not good enough because somebody could have amazing individual stats but never have a ring. You know what I mean? Is it some sort of mix of individual stats and rings? Or is it a mix of individual stats and rings and how much help you had on the team? Or is it just rings? So it's hard to come up with a standard that's like objectively the right answer. If you just go by rings, it's still Bill Russell, right? Didn't he have like 11 rings or something crazy? So I only caught the tail end of Jordan being Jordan. So I didn't really experience that like Jordan mania perfectly. I was born in 88. So I didn't really get the full punch of Jordan. But my guess is if you ask people who are big basketball fans and lived through both Jordan and LeBron, that they're going to say Jordan. Maybe if LeBron gets 2 more, then it's like a tie, even though LeBron would still have fewer rings. Because LeBron does seem dominant in so many ways that Jordan isn't in the game. But I really don't know the answer to that question. I will say this. I think it's certainly debatable. I think having the LeBron-Jordan conversation is not a ludicrous conversation. Whereas if you ask me, you know, when LeBron had 1 ring or even 2 rings, I would have said that's a little bit of a ludicrous question. Okay. Have you and will you still consider doing fan meetups in various places? No, wrong. Fuck all of you. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, of course I will. But listen, here's the deal, man. You guys aren't missing out on shit. You know what it is right now? Right now, it's a Friday night at 12 o'clock at night. And this is what I'm doing. Like, I don't do shit. You're not missing anything. You know what I do? I eat, I sleep, I fart, I yawn, I lay around, I read articles, and I talk to you motherfuckers. But yeah, no, of course I'll consider doing something like that. Don't, Kyle, it's a trap. Make sure it's in a well-lit and visible public place. Why do you change your font in your video sometimes? Good question. So that's, when I do that, it's because I'm trying to skirt the demonetization bug on YouTube, like the algorithms on YouTube. So I don't want to get into the whole story because I've already spoken about this a zillion times, but long story short, there was the adpocalypse happened on YouTube a while ago where we just got obliterated, news and politics creators. So me and David Pakman were literally on a blacklist where we made no money for over a week. But then we got off the blacklist, but I've still experienced a 60% cut in revenue since then. So it was a giant hit, and that's why we created the Patreon. And that's why I come out here and beg you guys that if you like the content, please give $2 a month because you're now the number one source of funding the show. But when you see those, you know, symbols over the letters in the video titles, it's because I'm trying to skirt the demonetization because the algorithms, if I do a video on Syria, if I do a video on ISIS, if I do almost any video on foreign policy, if I do a video about some sort of terror attack or mass shooting, like, so many topics just get automatically demonetized. So you got to try to find a way to post your video while still having it monetized. So that's why you put those weird letters in there, because sometimes it works to get around the demonetization. But if you guys like the show, please consider giving $2 a month on Patreon, because It's important, and we need it, and got such a giant hit from Adpocalypse, and we never fully recovered, and I think it's going to get a lot worse, too. So that's why the symbols are there. Have you ever considered a guest appearance on a Friday Power Panel of TYT's main show? Has sank. I always say it like that, even though I know it's jank. For fuck's sake, I co-founded Justice Democrats with a guy, and I still pronounce it wrong. Has jank ever offered? Would love to see you on a TYT panel. So first of all, yes, I've been on TYT before. They did a show in New York, and I did the show with them in New York. You could check that out. It's on my YouTube channel. It's on their YouTube channel. So we did a live show in New York, and that was a lot of fun, man. That was a lot of fun. And yes, of course I would do that. They've been trying to get me to go out there for like 2 years or 3 years. But, you know, just how I was telling you guys before about how you're not missing out on shit, I just haven't gotten around to it. I hate traveling. I'm scared of flying, like literally scared of it. You're going to have to fucking zonk me out on Xanax and Ambien to get me on a plane. But yeah, I've been invited. I will at some point go. I just haven't gone yet because I'm massively lazy and I'm scared of travel. And that's basically that. When did you know you were a progressive liberal? Pretty young. I was pretty young. I think I started reading Richard Dawkins and Noam Chomsky at a pretty young age. 5 favorite rappers of all time. Oh, shit. That's a difficult question, man. I'm going to put Jadakiss and Fabulous on the list for sure. Jadakiss and Fabulous go on that list for sure. I think Lil Wayne goes on there too. I think Tupac goes on there too. I feel like I'm going to fail at this question no matter what, because later on I'm going to start thinking about it again and go, fuck, I forgot, and then fill in the blank with somebody who I forgot, who I really wish I said, but I didn't. So I'll just leave it at those that I threw out there and tell you guys that that's tentative top 4 I think I gave. But that's... Yeah, I would need to sit down and think about this for like 3 hours before I gave you a real solid list. But those are the ones that come to my head off the top of my head. Why are you keeping silent on Jordan Chariton's sexual assault case? Please raise your voice on the matter as a progressive. So, for people who watch my show on a regular basis, I think what you'll notice is I don't cover the social issues as much as other progressive outlets. And that's a choice that I've made. I'm not as interested in the social issues. I mean, I'm being honest with that. And maybe some people will hate that fact about my show, but maybe some people will love that fact about my show. I really like to focus more on policy stuff. So that's why most segments you hear me talk about stuff, I'm focusing on some sort of policy thing, whether it's taxes, whether it's healthcare. There's always some sort of policy that's related to what I'm discussing. Now, in the rare cases where I do cover the sexual assault stuff, it's just because it is such a giant bombshell and there's so much information to talk about. Like, for example, even with Bill O'Reilly, the first, 1 or 2 allegations against him, I didn't cover it immediately. So, it's not something I cover often, and when I do cover it, it's because it's a big, giant story, and because the facts are super clear on it. Now, in the case of Jordan Chariton, number one, I'm kind of biased because I know the guy. You know, me and him are not besties or anything, but I know the guy. So my opinion on the matter is kind of tainted up front. And number two, I don't know all that much about it, but from what I do know, there's certainly not enough information for me to go out there and pound the gavel and say, hey, here's my very strong opinion on this, and let me give it to you and tell you, exactly where I'm coming from and exactly what the facts are and exactly what our position should be. So even with the Al Franken thing, if you guys notice, I didn't really cover that in too much detail. I did cover the Charlie Rose one. Of course, I covered the Donald Trump one. Certain ones that are super gigantic, and I think the facts are super clear. Those are the ones that I usually cover. But with the Al Franken one, I don't even know how that should have been handled. Because think about it like this. So the Democrats just set a precedent. They basically said, anytime there's an accusation now, we're going to have the Democrats step down. That's what they did. They said, okay, so there are allegations against Al Franken. The allegations are, actually, we did cover the Al Franken thing once with the first round of accusations. But since the first round of accusations of basically him kissing a woman who didn't really want to kiss him and pretending to grab her breasts on like a picture, on like a photo. Since then, there's been a bunch of allegations of him grabbing women's asses when there's a picture that's taken. So he did that like a bunch of times. Okay, so that's terrible, and that shouldn't be done. But the Democrats decided, we want you to step down. They threw him under a bus, and they said, you're going to step down. And in his resignation speech, he said, listen, I don't even agree that I did, like, some of the accusations against me are false. That's what he said. And the other ones, I misremember. I remember them differently, basically, is how he said. So in other words, he's saying, in my mind, what happened was consensual, and other ones were liars. That's what he's saying, and then he stepped down. But the Democrats decided to set a precedent. Now, anytime there's any accusations against a Democrat, we're going to throw him under a bus and say, you should resign. So John Conyers is going to step down. Al Franken is stepping down. But here's the problem with setting up that standard, okay? The Democrats set up that standard. Anytime there's accusations, you have to resign. Well, guess what? You ready for this? Boom. Hillary Clinton's supporters are plotting to falsely accuse Bernie Sanders of sexual assault. See, this is what happens when you publicly declare, listen, all you need to do is accuse a Democrat of sexual assault. You could have no evidence at all. You just accuse it, and we'll say they need to step down. Okay, well, now you made it so that what happens? Look at this tweet. It says, so who's ready to be an anonymous caller to say Bernie grabbed my waist during a selfie? All we need is 8, and we can push him out. They're not kidding. There are people who hate him that much, who are... there's only 8% of Democrats dislike Bernie. Those 8% are the die-hard Hillary people. You don't think some of them are unscrupulous enough to do this? Of course they are. And once you set up the standard, listen, all you have to do is accuse, and then that's it. Well, then you made it so that, the Republicans will weaponize that. You have people on the Republican side like fucking Karl Rove. Did you know for George W. Bush's campaign for president, they came up with the rumor that John McCain fathered an illegitimate black baby, and then they did push polling in the South and asked the question, would you be more likely or less likely to vote for John McCain if you heard he fathered an illegitimate black baby? You think the same people who did those tricks are above making false accusations for sexual assault, for sexual harassment? And again, the Democrats decided, well, our standard is now if there's any allegations, you have to step down. Okay? So I don't know if I agree with that standard, because now it is a political weapon that will be used against them 100%. Now, I will say, if somebody did it and they admit that they did it, that's a different story. Then of course they should step down. But in my mind, I think you should probably have an investigation and then actually determine the facts and then take an action. What happened is the Democrats said, we're going to throw you under a bus and move on. So there you go. I hope I answered your question, and I hope you realize I'm not trying to be evasive. I just genuinely do have mixed feelings on some of this stuff. Okay, so that, I hope, answers your question on that. Let's see, where else were we? Is there any other right-wingers you'd be willing to debate in the future? Listen, man. Debates are for you guys. Like, it is literally the lowest form of discourse. You have one person who's defending one side, another person who's defending another side, And in a debate, as a general rule, nobody's looking for truth. They're looking to get their talking points out there and defend their side and the position that they're supposed to have, that they've been assigned to have in the back and forth. So as a general rule, I hate debates. It just so happens that you guys like debates. Because it's, it's fun. It's, this person destroyed that person, decimated that person, obliterated that person. But it's basically the functional equivalent of the WWE. It's the intellectual equivalent of the WWE. And that's not a shot at the WWE. I actually like the WWE too. And I get that the audience appreciates debate. Sometimes I appreciate a debate. But I'm just saying that if you really care about getting to truth, it's much better to just have discussions with people, have conversations with people, and hopefully you find some areas of agreement, even with somebody that you disagree with. But it's almost like when you go into a debate, like right off the bat, that whole dynamic is fucked up. So for those of you who haven't seen my debate, you can go check it out. I went on The Drunken Peasants and debated a conservative YouTuber named Razorfist. The guy he's a nice guy. He's a nice guy personally, very nice guy personally. But I absolutely broke his back and drank his spinal fluid. I obliterated the poor guy. But, I guess at some point in the future I'll do another debate or something, but that's really more for you guys than for me, because I'm more interested in having conversations and getting to truth with people, and not, here's the problem. I finally found a way to phrase it. I feel like most of the things that I talk about in a debate are things that are not debatable. And that's what's so frustrating. I'm having to make arguments that are fucking obvious. And when I have to, vehemently defend the most obvious thing in the world, it is goddamn annoying. You see what I mean? I'd love to be discussing more things that are fucking actually debatable, that are interesting, where I can see multiple sides to it. I hate having to is Trump a good president was one of the things I had to debate. Really? I'm gonna have to fucking debate that? I had to debate it. And I don't know, I feel like it's almost insulting to have that debate, because there's so obviously a correct answer to it, and I'm gonna talk to somebody who doesn't agree with me on that very easy question, and then I lose all intellectual respect for you if you can't come to that conclusion. Based on everything that's out there right now. Really? You couldn't come to that conclusion? Oh, it's fucking frustrating. So that's why, because so many of the things you would discuss in a debate are not debatable, and that's why it's fucking frustrating. So maybe at some point in the future I'll do another debate for you guys, but it's not something I would ever do on a regular basis, because it's a giant waste of time that just happens to be kind of entertaining for you guys. Okay, where are we going? I'm never going to get to all these guys, and I'm so sorry about that. If net neutrality dies on the 14th, would a future president be able to re-regulate so it's back? Yes. The answer to that is yes. It'll probably be difficult, but yes, they would be able to do it. But this is it's horrendous, man. And, look, everybody knows I hate Hillary Clinton. I despise Hillary Clinton. I think she's terrible. She's basically the worst that the Democrats could have offered. But this actually is one of those areas where you do see that it still is factually true that she would have been a lesser evil than Donald Trump. She wouldn't have pulled out of the Paris Climate Agreement. She wouldn't have, destroyed net neutrality. She wouldn't have appointed Neil Gorsuch on the court. We would have got Merrick Garland, who's kind of like a fucking vanilla-ass centrist. But guess what? A vanilla centrist is better than Gorsuch, who's a far-right-wing lunatic. So this is one of those areas where you really get to see the stark difference. And it's pathetic, man. It's pathetic. So we're going to lose internet freedom, internet neutrality. It feels weird saying it like that because everybody says net neutrality. But yeah, God, it's going to go away. That's so fucking crazy. Oh, it's so bad. We need Bernie Sanders to win. We need a Democrat who's a strong progressive to win, populist left, and just fix all this shit. Okay. Are you still making an appearance on the Joe Rogan podcast? I'm not even... Listen, I don't even know if Joe Rogan knows I exist. So, there was a time when I was in talks with their, I guess, producer or something, And it's because at the time, Cenk from TYT had been on, Anna Kasparian had been on, so there are people who I know who knew Joe, who put in the word, and then I was connected with their producers or whatever, and we exchanged emails once or twice. But bottom line is, Joe Rogan doesn't have people on his show who he doesn't know well or doesn't like their stuff. So the only thing I know that he saw of mine was my talk with Sam Harris from years back. But he didn't, speaking about it in the context of he was listening to Sam on this thing, not like, oh, I was listening to Kyle. You see what I mean? So it's not even like he knows me, I don't think. But yeah, I guess, he hasn't come across my stuff or doesn't like my stuff, so, it's not... There appears like there's no line of communication, because everybody knows that once the Sam Harris shit hit the fan with TYT, Joe took a pretty strong side on that, and he sides with Sam Harris, and you could see that his podcast more represents that side of the debate. So, he's had on Dave Rubin, who despises TYT and shits on TYT all the time, and now has a show where probably over 90% of the guests are right-wingers. He's had on Dave Rubin, he's had on Jordan Peterson, he's had on Sam Harris, he hasn't had on Sam Cedar, he hasn't had on Jimmy Dore, he hasn't had on me, he hasn't had on David Pakman. Ever since the shit hit the fan with Sam Harris, he hasn't had back on Cenk. So, yeah, I just don't know. I don't think he's that interested in talking to me or somebody who represents my, ideology or beliefs. And listen, it's his show. He gets to make whatever decision he wants, man. If he doesn't want me on, that's fine. That's, no big deal. I would love to go on the show. And I actually like him. I think he's really cool. And I really like, even when I disagree with him, I love listening to his podcast. So, bottom line is, it would be cool to go on Joe Rogan's show, but I don't know if he's interested. I don't even know if he really knows me. And at the moment, that seems like a dead end, because I haven't heard from them in forever, and I have no way of reaching out to them. Actually, that's not true. I'm friends with TJ Kirk, the Amazing Atheist, and he actually put in a word as well. But again, haven't heard shit from Joe. So I just don't know if he knows me, or he might know me but not like my stuff, or I don't know. I have no idea. Okay, have you ever considered, we already did that one. How are you? Hey, Ed, I'm doing well, man. Thanks for asking. That's very sweet of you to ask. Love your show, Kyle. I watch all your videos on my long-ass rides back and forth to work. Actually, I need more videos. I then have to switch to TYT when yours are consumed. Anyway, I really like your viewpoints and your stance on issues. Keep it up. Thank you very much. It's very nice of you. His name's Kyle, too. Kyle Ferrier. Why are you I already did that one. Do you plan on running for office one day? This question has burned inside me for years. I used to say hell no, never, but now I say I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like Trump has proven that literally anybody can win. So, I know this is going to sound really ridiculous to say, but I'm going to say it because it's actually how I feel about it. I think I would win no matter what I ran for. I think if I ran for Congress, I'd win. I think if I ran for the Senate, I'd win. I think if I ran for president, I'd win. That sounds so cocky just listening to me say it, but that's actually how I feel. But on a personal level, I don't want to run. I don't want to be a politician. It's a pain in the ass. It's a lot of work. And I like what I do. But I went from saying hell no, never, to now I just say I don't know. Is it possible that when I'm 52 years old, I'll be like, you know what? I feel like I have to run for something? Maybe that happens, but I really don't know. What poses a bigger problem for progressive ideals gaining traction? The right or the regressive left? The right. I mean, the regressive left, I don't, like, social justice warriors is what this guy's talking about, the SJWs as they're called. These are the people who, like, want to police speech and deplatform people and say we're gonna not allow conservative talkers on campus or whatever. I disagree with those people, and I'll argue against them. But I think that there's such an overemphasis on, like, talk about making a mountain out of a molehill. I mean, there are commentators who only talk about the social justice warriors, and it gets so tiring. Like, we get it. Oversensitive college kids are pricks. We fucking get it. But we live in a country where we have a Republican president who's a fucking maniac. The Republicans control the Senate. They control the House. They control most governorships. They control most state legislatures. I mean, Republicans are in control across the country, and they are pushing draconian policy as we speak. They're trying to raise taxes on the middle class and cut it for the rich. I mean, we have a healthcare system that's an absolute mess, and we're moving in the wrong direction because Trump is signing executive orders that are gutting the progress that we made with Obamacare. And obviously, Obamacare wasn't enough. We need Medicare for all. And we're look at the wars we're fighting. We're bombing 8 different countries. Like, there is so much fucked up shit going on. And there are people who are so obsessed with just oversensitive college kids. You know, like, again, I disagree with them whenever people are against free speech and stuff. But there are so many more important things going on that we need to talk about. And the real attack right now is from the right. The right controls everything, and they're destroying everything in sight. Look at climate change, like all these things that are happening that we need to address. So I think the bigger threat is from the right. I would love it if the left got our house in order, and that means, social justice warriors not being social justice warriors, and that means establishment and corporatist Democrats not being establishment and corporatist Democrats. But, I mean, I think the reality is the bigger threat is from the right. Kyle, what are your thoughts on Franken? I just went into detail with that. Do you have an opinion on Representative Tulsi Gabbard? Yeah, I like her. I like Representative Tulsi Gabbard. I think she's been a leading voice of sanity on wars. I think she's one of the strongest non-interventionist Democrats that's out there. So I like her. On some issues every now and then I disagree with her, but I like how she's distinct in her ideology, and she strikes me as a lot more principled than other politicians. So I do have a positive opinion of Tulsi Gabbard. I think she's great on issues of intervention. I think she came around after our Justice Democrats petition. She said, you know what? You guys convinced me. I'm for Medicare for all. So it happened in real time. You guys said, hey, support this. She's like, you know what? I support this. I agree with you guys. That makes sense. So overall, I think she's good. Think you'd ever make a video on the erosion of education in states like Wisconsin and around the country, and your spin on those events would like to see. If I see an article that I find interesting about that, yes, I'll cover it. Kyle, what are your thoughts on being nice to politicians with horrible voting records? Example, McCain had cancer and everyone was sending condolences, but one can make the argument he's indirectly responsible for thousands of lives lost due to his policy. Joe, that's a good question. I'm in favor of taking no shit. I'm in favor of forcing politicians to do your will. And by that, of course, I mean doing the will of the American people, because on almost every issue, our beliefs fall in line with what the majority of the American people believe. So, yeah, I think you should be a dick. I mean, look, he has cancer, so I'm not saying you say to the guy, like, I'm happy you have cancer. No, I mean, we all have to be, moral people. You can't be an immoral asshole. But no, like what happened to him the other day where he has like only 70 more followers or something until he hits 3 million followers. And then he lost like thousands because people were like, oh, right, I'm still following this douchebag, and he said he's going to vote for this horrendous tax bill. So they unfollowed him. Yeah, fuck him, man. Like, fuck you. Don't... I hate the politeness brigade. Like, this is what you see from establishment Republicans and establishment Democrats. If somebody has like a tone that's fucking harsh, they lose it. They're like, oh, we have breached decorum. It's like, fuck your decorum. I care about fighting for the people. and winning on the issues that would make their lives better. I don't give a fuck about your feelings or if you don't like my tone. What are we, 6? What is this? What are we in school? Fuck out of here. Do you think the actual left isn't good at persuading regular people who do not follow politics? Actually, people who actually believe in, libertarian left ideas or social democratic ideas, no, I think they're great. And that's why you see Bernie Sanders is the most popular politician in the country. Because he has these ideas that are popular, and it's easy to sell them because they're really fucking popular. So even though he's 1,000 years old, people are like, I really like that guy. So I think when somebody's an actual lefty, they're the best at persuading people. The ones who suck at persuading people are the spineless corporate Democrats, the establishment Democrats, the social justice warriors. Those are the people who suck at persuading people. Hey, Kyle, what is your opinion on Mark Dice? I think that guy's a lunatic. To me, when it comes to being an apologist for Trump and having disdain for the left, he takes it to extremes in both instances. Yeah, I think that guy's like a big-time conspiracy theorist, right? At least that's the little I know about him. How many times have you been recognized in public? Has anyone ever fanboyed on you, and how did you feel, would you feel if that happened? So I'm not out, so if I go to, the city, for example, I'll be recognized. But if it's not the city, then no, I don't get recognized that much. For the places I actually go, I don't get recognized that much. Like when I go to the fucking grocery store, or when I go to play golf. Yeah, I don't get recognized there, but I do if I'm in the city, I'll get recognized. And it's a little strange, but you just have to remind yourself that basically this person knows you. It's like they know you. It's like they're an old friend. You just don't know them, but they know you. But once you get used to that dynamic, and once you get over that dynamic, it's cool. Then it's kind of fun and interesting. What are your thoughts on Bitcoin? I don't think it's people are making it out like it's a bubble that can never burst ever. It's impossible. It's mathematically impossible for this bubble to burst because it's not a bubble. That's bullshit. Of course it could burst. Of course it's in a bubble right now. But having said that, I'm not super bearish on it. I'm not super bullish on it. I just think it's an investment. It's an interesting idea. Cryptocurrencies are an interesting idea. I'm not against them. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. I don't do investments, but, some people swear by Bitcoin. My take on it is, it's not the end-all, be-all like a lot of people want you to think. It's the currency that's going to replace all currency. No, that's not the case. It's not the case that the bubble can't burst for Bitcoin. But I'm not the opposite extreme either, where some people are like, Bitcoin, the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Bitcoin is so dumb. So, yeah, I guess I'm somewhere in the middle. Are you planning to have a 1-hour political chat with Jimmy Dore anytime soon? Of course, Jimmy and I have tried to set that up 2 or 3 times, but him and I are both, just with our own shows, pretty busy. But Jimmy's a friend of mine. So him and I talk all the time, not on air. But yeah, I'd love to talk to Jimmy Dore. Are there any New England Justice Democrats? We have over 30 now, 32, I think it is. So I don't know specifically. Just go to justicedemocrats.com and you can go to the candidates and scroll through them and you'll see all of them right there. Noah asks, are you interested in men? No, I am not. It's funny because some people, when they see the Kyle out of context, they'll watch a Kyle out of context clip and then they'll think I'm gay. And I have to be like, hey, you do realize it says out of context right in the title, right? It says it right in the title. So whenever I'm talking about dicks or something in one of those videos, I'm making fun of Ted Cruz or something, saying he would talk about. You see what I'm saying? It's all out of context. No, I am a ladies' man in that women are who I am interested in sexually. Why do people seemingly make the same mistake over and over to somehow not gain anything from that experience. Probably not the question you were looking for. I don't know what that means. Prediction for Alabama Senate race. Here's my prediction. It's a coin toss. It could go Roy Moore, it could go Doug Jones. Yeah. I'm not going to make a prediction because it's close. Yeah. That's all I have to say about that. But, it is kind of crazy when you think about it that, a pedophile might... to say it is so weird. A pedophile might win the election. Like, it's not even like he got elected and then, oh shit, we found out he was a pedophile when he was elected. You see what I'm saying? Like, he was figured out to be into young girls under the age of consent before the election, during the campaign. And it's a coin toss. And by the way, that shows you how terrible the Democrats are. Listen, you let me run the campaign of a Democrat who the opponent is a pedophile, I guarantee a victory. Doug Jones would be up fucking 24 points right now if I was running his campaign. Even in deep red Alabama. But these Democrats never know what to do. They don't know how to fucking bury their opponent. But it does also speak to the state of affairs in a state like Alabama. Like Alabama, Mississippi, those are some of the places where it's like a different world there. It's like a different world. Some people, their whole mindset is just, how do I trigger the libs? How do I vote for the craziest far-right Republican available? So it's a different beast in Mississippi and in Alabama and in some states in this country. I happen to think the states where it's nearly impossible for a Democrat to win are fewer than other Democrats might say. But those are literally some of the most far-right states that there are, Alabama and Mississippi. So, but still, given the facts that are out there now, I think I'd be able to defeat Roy Moore if I was running a candidate there. But it is sad that it's fucking a coin toss and a pedophile might win. If Medicare for All gets passed, how would the current medical department of people be handled? I'm not sure exactly what that means. If Medicare for All gets passed, how would the current medical department of people be handled? Brett, I'm sorry, man. I don't know exactly what you're asking there. Yeah. Listen, Medicare for All, it's a matter of funding. And in a Medicare for All system, the government is the single payer, the single insurer of everybody. So in other words, your tax dollars then go to cover everybody's health care. That's what that is. Your tax dollars go to pay for everybody's health care. So we all pay taxes, and when you break your leg or grandma gets cancer, you don't have to pay anything out of pocket. It all comes out of tax dollars. That's what that means. So people would pretty much stay in their jobs. You get rid of some of the bureaucracy. You get rid of the unnecessary middlemen, but everybody else keeps their job. Is Justice Dems likely to run a presidential candidate? And if not, which incumbent do you think stands the best chance against Trump? The answer is yes. We're likely to be involved and have a candidate, sure. But I think what you'll find is most of the progressive groups lining up behind the same candidate, whether it's Justice Democrats, Our Revolution, Fight for 15, National Nurses United. Chances are we'll all, have the same candidate, if you will. But who stands the best chance? At the moment, it's Bernie. It depends on how bad shit gets for the next election. If there's another economic crash, any Democrat can beat Trump. If there's not an economic crash yet, then the corporate Democrats for sure it would be a coin flip against a corporate Democrat, a Cory Booker, for example, Tim Kaine. That'd be a coin flip. You don't want that. But, I do think Elizabeth Warren can beat Trump. Bernie can beat Trump. Even Biden, even though I don't want him running, there's a decent chance he could beat him. How do you feel today's DNC Unity Commission went? I haven't seen it yet, Brandon, so I'm not sure. Your thoughts on today's racial atmosphere? That's kind of a vague and broad question. I don't know. I mean, it's pretty shitty that we now have white identity politics has kind of made a strong rebound. The last time white identity politics was out in the open was probably like the 50s and 60s, and then it had to go away like for 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, and then now there's a resurgence of literal white identity politics out in the open, like the Richard Spencer types, the alt-right types. So I think it's kind of shitty. Would you ever be willing to stand for office? Yeah, I already answered that. Sorry. Progressives running as Republicans. Yeah, it's fine. That's fine. I think it's a little strange, but I get it. Like, I get it. You know, progressives who run as Republicans are progressives who say, listen, I think if I make my case, I can convince anybody. That's what that is. Now, it might be a more pie-in-the-sky idea to try to do it in the Republican Party. It is. It's harder. And they'll tell you that, a progressive who's running as Republican. Yeah, it's going to be harder for me to convince people. But, yeah, why not try? I mean, I think you already have... That's the thing people don't realize, is you already have Republicans with you on a lot of issues. I mean, on social issues, there might be the biggest divergence, and they're not with you, like on abortion and stuff like that. But on economic stuff, you'd be surprised. There are polls that show that these, you know, you have these people who call themselves Republicans, but they have pretty social democratic beliefs. They're for Medicare for all. They're for free college. They're for raising taxes on the rich. So, yeah, I'm not against the idea. In fact, if it was a giant coordinated effort and a lot of people did it, I think it could have very positive results. Would you ever come to Australia? Of course, Corey. I love Australia. How's JD doing so far, and what's the chance it'll become a political force to be truly reckoned with in 2020? It's a good question, Roberto. We have over 30 candidates. I don't think people realize just how big of an accomplishment that is. Because the amount of work that goes into all this stuff is fucking mind-blowing. I mean, there are people working around the clock for this stuff. So, and it takes a lot to try to run a campaign and get involved in the political process and all that stuff. So, what are the chances it'll be a force to be reckoned with by 2020? Pretty fucking good if you ask me. I love our candidates. It's just a matter of getting the fundraising, man. Getting the fundraising, getting our name out there. So you guys should go to justicedemocrats.com/fight and donate if you can, because our candidates take no corporate PAC money. So we don't have any big money donors. So we need a lot of money from a lot of people in small dollar donations. Curious to hear your thoughts on why poor and working class whites voted for Trump. Because of economic anxiety, white, poor, and working class people of color didn't vote for him. So I think it's less about their economic situation and more about racial and cultural issues. What do you think? Thanks. I think it's about both. And I think it's annoying when I see all the articles where people are like saying, no, it is about race, and I will make the case that it is about race and why Trump won. And then other people will make the argument, no, it is all about economic anxiety. And it didn't have anything to do with race. The reality is it had a lot to do with both. So there are plenty of people who voted for Trump because he expressed bigoted beliefs. Plenty of them. So when he said, for example, the Mexicans are rapists, they're criminals, they're rapists. I assume some are good people. When he spoke about how we need a total and complete shutdown of Muslims. Those are his words, quote, total and complete shutdown of Muslims coming into the country. He said we should do a nationwide stop and frisk program. You know, he said the cops were oppressed. Meanwhile, like the Ferguson report had came out earlier that year and, you know, went into detail about how the cops are basically just robbing minorities. Shaking them down, searching them without a warrant whenever they want, you know, locking people up for petty drug crimes. Like, so that is, you know, that's him winking and nodding to white identity politics. So there are people who voted for him because of that stuff. because he kind of said, look, I'm here to stand up for white people. All the illegal aliens, we gotta build a wall. We gotta deport people. So some people voted for him because of that. I mean, David Duke fucking supported the guy, of course. So, like, David Duke, it's not economic anxiety. The guy has a fucking white supremacist ideology, and he believes it, and Trump more closely resembles that ideology than Hillary. So some people, it is racial stuff. But then there are plenty of people it wasn't racial stuff. When you have somebody who voted for Obama twice, and then they vote for Trump, corporate Democrats could try to fucking smear that person all they want. But the reality is that person is hurting. That person is hurting, and they thought, listen, I'll overlook all the bigoted shit Trump said, but I'm going to vote for him because I think he's going to keep my job in the country. Listen, the Rust Belt is why Hillary lost. If she held the Rust Belt, she would have won the election, but she didn't hold the Rust Belt. She lost the Rust Belt. Now, Trump was in the Rust Belt in the final weeks of the election, giving speeches against TPP, railing against NAFTA, painting Hillary as the face of NAFTA because her husband, Bill Clinton, signed it and she supported it. So when you have these broken down old factory towns, these former manufacturing hubs, that are in fucking ruins because of NAFTA and because of CAFTA and permanent normal trade relations with China and the World Trade Organization, because of all this free trade that's just outsourcing their jobs, those people got fucked. And they've always voted for the person who was against the outsourcing of those jobs. So Obama was against outsourcing. He, on the campaign trail, he made that clear. And when he got in office, he signed some free trade agreements, and he was pushing TPP at the end of his time in office. But he ran against the trade deals. In fact, he went after Hillary for NAFTA. So Trump positioned himself as more populist on trade. Well, guess what? That's the issue that swung the election in those states, and those are the defining states. Because the way our system works with the Electoral College, if Hillary held the Rust Belt, she would have won, but she lost the Rust Belt across the board. And those people they even told pollsters afterwards, they said, listen, we would vote for populist Democrats over Republicans. But there was no populist Democrat in the general election. So they voted for Trump because they said, hey, he sounds anti-establishment. He sounds like he's going to keep my job here. He sounds like we're rolling the dice on him. We know he's crazy, but maybe he delivers and he keeps our jobs here. So it's both. Both are the reason why Trump won. Are you coming to Seattle / do you ever do live shows? I have no plans, but I'm sure at some point I'll be there. And I don't do live shows on a regular basis, but I have... live. Okay. I do live shows every week, but it's just audio. It's not video, the live shows. In terms of live, like in person, no, I've only done that once, and it was with TYT, and I haven't done it since. But maybe at some time in the future. Hey, Kyle, why don't supply-side economics work? It's a fraud. It's a fraud that's concocted by rich people to convince you to give more money to rich people. Yeah, and then they try to convince you, hey, look, if you cut my taxes and deregulate and let me do whatever I want, then the wealth trickles down to you. Well, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's just the reality of the situation that it doesn't. Every single time we tried it, it didn't happen. So it doesn't work because it doesn't work. Where are your legs? I do have legs, I promise. One person from FDR to now in U.S. history would you want to have a political debate with? I really want to talk to Malcolm X. Because Malcolm X is an interesting character. I mean, when he was in his younger years with Elijah Muhammad, he was a black nationalist. And he's a powerful character. And if you listen to his speeches, he's one of the most compelling speakers I've ever heard in my life. But in his later years, when he left the Nation of Islam and Elijah Muhammad, he started sounding more like Martin Luther King Jr. So he went from like literally hating white people to saying, no, I'll work with anybody who's in favor of, like, justice. So I'd want to just talk to him about his philosophy and see where he's at and what he believes. In his later years, I'd want to figure out, what exactly do you believe? Do you believe America is an empire, and do you think America will end up like the Republic of Rome and have a monarchy? I do think America is an empire, and I don't think we will have a monarchy. But I do think our empire will fall at some point. And I hope it could be a smooth transition into not being an empire, but it doesn't look like it. It looks like it's going to fucking crash and burn. To-do list before the end times. Florida rally cheers when Republican predicts Trump's Jerusalem embassy decision may usher Armageddon. Thank you for that, Douglas. Yes, these are the insane people we're dealing with. Would you ever consider doing the live show with video, such as live show? Yeah, well, yes. If you heard my fucking prelude to this, I was talking about how everything's a pain in the ass and hard to do. But, yeah, maybe at some time. Key things most young people should know going into 2018 can be political or other. Get involved. Just get involved politically. Get involved with joining organizations. And by the way, you know what I realized? Like, you can join, like, Democratic Socialists of America and still be in the Democratic Party so you can vote in Democratic primaries. You see what I'm saying? So, like, people try to set up almost this false dichotomy of, like, oh, no, you're either that or you're that. Well, no, you could be part of whatever fucking movement you want to be a part of, but still be registered as a Democrat so that you vote in the primaries, because that, I think, is important. I want people who have the same ideology, who have a populist left ideology. If you consider yourself a socialist or a social democrat, or I want you to realize that you need to control the Democratic Party. You need to get involved and become the Democratic Party. In other words, don't let the establishment and the corporatists win. I feel like some people want to just take their ball and go home because the Democratic Party has been fucking over the left for so long. But the answer to that is not to give them what they want. The answer to that is to fucking destroy them. So, in other words, if you want to, let's say you want to join Democratic Socialists. Join Democratic Socialists, but also stay registered as a Democrat so that you can vote in the primaries and get the person to win who should win. I hope that makes sense. But also get involved in any way you can. If you want to, get involved in a political campaign and make phone calls for people or knock on doors for people or donate or whatever the case is, just get involved. Would you consider running for office? I already answered that. Why haven't you covered WikiLeaks DMing Don Jr.? I actually have spoken about that. I did speak about that. I did a long Twitter thing on that one night. And basically my take on it is this. I now think that WikiLeaks did, like Julian Assange and WikiLeaks did want Trump to win. I think that Julian Assange, if you asked Julian Assange's personal opinion leading up to the election and he was honest with you, he'd say, I'd prefer Donald Trump wins. Now, I disagree with Julian Assange on that, 100%. Obviously, I wanted Bernie to win, but with Bernie not in it, I preferred, if it was going to be one of the two, if you held a gun to my head and you have to pick either Hillary or Trump, I'd go, I despise Hillary, but she's definitely the lesser evil, so I'm going to go with Hillary. Okay, so I think Julian Assange wanted Trump to win. I disagree with Julian Assange on that. However, that doesn't take anything away from the fact that the DNC leaks are correct. They're accurate. That stuff all really happened, and he's exposing something that should be exposed. So honestly, even though I might not agree with his motives, I still want to see those DNC leaks, and they should be released, and we should know how the sausage is made, and this is what you should know in a democracy. We should know that, hey, Hillary and the DNC were fucking cheating Bernie. We should know that. So even though his motives might not be the purest, and he likely supported Trump, I still think it's a good thing he leaked the DNC information, and my point is, it doesn't take anything away from the validity of those leaks. So you see people trying to say, oh, fucking Julian Assange, and then, like, dismiss all the work WikiLeaks has ever done, and that's crazy. That's fucking crazy. Because all that stuff is important, and it's good that we learned about it, even though you could argue his motives weren't pure. Still a beef with Rubin report. I would love it if you say yes. No, I don't really... I mean, at this point, I do think he's moved further and further right as time has gone by. I know he would deny that, but I think it's just the objective reality when you look at his political positions. I think over 90% of the people that he has on his show are right-wingers. Now, that doesn't necessarily reflect on the fact that he's a right-winger now, but he just is based on what his political positions appear to be. I mean, he did a video for Prager University that says, why I left the left or something like that. So I don't know why he even bothers to say he's not, right-leaning anymore, because I think it just shows based on what his beliefs have become where he is. But no, I don't have a beef with him. I don't really think about him, to be honest. He's got his audience now, and that's, more tied in with the Ben Shapiros and the Milo Yiannopoulos and stuff like that, and he can have fun in that echo chamber in his little safe space there, where he's free of all the microaggressions from people on the left who might trigger him. I'll tell you though, I really love that segment he did where he backed Sam Cedar. Remember how Sam Cedar got fired over a joke from like 8 years ago? Now, thankfully, MSNBC fired him back, but it's because of strong voices that stand up for free speech, like Dave Rubin. I heard Trump mocked one of the victims in one of Roy Moore's sexual assault cases. Is that true? I don't know. What the fuck, am I hanging out with him, dude? Thanks, dude. I'm a progressive granny. We are on Facebook, bunch of granny. Want to see people who want our democracy. Take some to register or knock on doors. Progressive grannies, Birmingham, Alabama. All right, cool. I don't know what granny means with an I, but you go get him, granny. Have any 2020 predictions? Nope. Gonna have to ask me more specifically. Have you ever seen the show The Newsroom? I did watch a few episodes of that. I don't know. It felt a little over the top and annoying. Like, the guy, I think, was modeled after, like, Keith Olbermann or something, but after a while, I got kind of sick of it. Neo highways, overpass, underpasses at all intersections flowing 100 plus miles an hour. Vehicle. What the fuck are you saying, dude? I think he's saying something about infrastructure here. Yes, I'm in favor of a New Deal and having all new infrastructure across the country. And we should have the number one infrastructure in the world. It should be rated A+, and we should do it and create millions of jobs. What would a Mike Pence presidency look like, and how would it affect the 2020 primaries and presidential election? A Mike Pence presidency would be a hell of a lot like a Donald Trump presidency. I think a Mike Pence presidency would be a lot like Donald Trump's presidency, except even more right-wing on social issues because he's a true fundamentalist Christian. And I think maybe Mike Pence would be a little better on North Korea, and I don't think he would go to war with North Korea immediately, whereas we might actually go to war with North Korea under Trump. But overall, it would be very similar, and I think Mike Pence might be able to get some more legislation into law because he's more competent than Trump is. But overall, very similar. He might be a little worse on social issues and a little better on war, specifically with North Korea. Why do you think Jordan Peterson is so popular? I kind of touched on that earlier. Which will come first? Justice Democrats and progressive parties alike successfully take over the Democratic Party, or third-party options begin winning elections? Listen, third-party people are my allies, and I have nothing but love for them because they're usually right on all the issues, and they're fighting really hard for this stuff. So I have nothing but love for you guys. But Justice Democrats are going to win first. And here's why. It's rigged against third parties. Many of them don't even have fucking ballot access. So they have a whole other hurdle they have to get over before they even get their foot in the door. That's why we decided to do Justice Democrats. Because it's easier to take over the Democratic Party and win that way than to start from scratch and try to get ballot access and try to get recognition and build from the ground up. Like I said, I always use this analogy. It's like running a marathon and swinging a hammer at your kneecap first and handicapping yourself. It's like, okay, well, you didn't have to swing that hammer at your kneecap. You could have just ran the marathon. But, if people want to go solely the third party route, it's like handicapping yourself. That's why I think Justice Democrats are going to win first. But listen, having said that, I support any and all options to defeat Republicans and defeat corporate Democrats. So I support you if you're trying that. I'm just trying to get everybody to realize that it's harder to do it that way. That's just a fact. But I support you either way because we need allies across the board here, out of the party, in the party, whatever it may be. We need an across-the-board approach, and that's what we're doing with third parties and with Justice Democrats. I just happen to think Justice Democrats will get there first. Who's your favorite rap artist? We kind of touched on that before. Are you familiar with Peter Josephs? That's the Zeitgeist guy. I don't know enough about him, but from what I do know about him, I'm not sure I'm totally with him. A lot of these people are kind of left of me. Yeah, like I think they would look at me almost like this, milquetoast social democrat who's right of them on a lot of stuff. Which is true. But people who are like super radical, I don't know, I'm not totally with that. Talk about the controversy over electronic arts gambling loot boxes in Star Wars Battlefront 2. I don't know what that is, Case, and I'm sorry. How much money would it take to make you play D&D with Hugo and Jake for our entertainment? I have a feeling the fans could meet that goal. I like Hugo and Jake. I've been on their show before. So I would go on it again for no money. Have you considered doing a live version of your show? Yeah, I kind of touched on that before as well. You having a good day, Kyle? Yes, Jason, I am, and thank you very much for asking. Any chance we could see you do political rambles with people? TJ Kirk comes to mind. Yeah, I've been on his show. I've had him on my channel to discuss some stuff, so yeah, we've done that before. How big is your pecker? I'm not complaining. Who's going to win the Manchester Derby this weekend? No clue. Will you ever talk sports? The only sports I know shit about, I know a lot about golf because I'm a golfer. So I know a decent amount about that. And basketball, I know a decent amount about, but not as much as I know about golf. I like how Max said that too. He says when he does, he sticks with basketball and golf. I don't know enough about the other sports. I don't know anything about baseball at all. For example, NFL, same thing. Did I miss anything from you about Jordan Charon's problems? I briefly touched on that before. NBA Finals predictions. I don't know, but it's going to be good this year, man. It's going to be interesting, right? I mean, Boston's fucking tearing shit up, right? It should be interesting to see how it plays out. But no, I'm not going to make a prediction yet. What's your opinion on the whole Bill Gates testing vaccines on kids as guinea pigs and in some cases without parents' consent in India? Vanessa, I didn't hear anything about that story. And I don't know, maybe that did happen, but my gut reaction reading that is that it sounds like it's not true, and it sounds like it's something that was on some, like, fringe website. But I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but that just sounds sketchy, and it sounds like something that didn't happen, but is kind of like a rumor or something. So I'm just going to reserve judgment. Somebody says Five Guys, although In-N-Out is bomb, but just different than Five Guys. They're asking the best burger. Me and Corin covered this. I think it's Five Guys by a mile. Thoughts on Nick for VA announcing that he's running against Tim Kaine for Senate? I don't know anything about Nick for VA, unfortunately, Jacob. Sorry. But if I did, I would certainly give you my take on it. Give me a quick breakdown how to rebuild unions in the U.S. Oh, shit. Brad, that's a hard one to do quick, isn't it? Well, first of all, you need a government that's fucking open to unions and willing to pass pro-union legislation like card check. But you need a lot of organizing, and you need basically management to be put in place through policy to handcuff them, to say, look, people have a right to be in a union, stuff like that. You got to end the so-called right-to-work laws that are fucking up unions across the country. So there's a lot of legislation that could be done, but once the proper legislation is in place, then it's just a matter of doing the hard work and organizing on the ground. Hey, Kyle, I would like to run for office, and I'm interested in being a Justice Democrat. What are you guys looking for in potential candidates? So, Sam, you should enter your name on justicedemocrats.com. There's a whole vetting process that they go through, and you'll be asked what your thoughts are on the issues, and our candidates have to believe in certain things in the platform, of course. So you'd have to go through all that. But what we're looking for in candidates is people who are populist left, people who take no corporate PAC money, won't take any big money, and people who can win. That's what we care about. Do you think there's a limit where it's okay to see someone who says nothing but falsehoods and inflammatory remarks and say that person shouldn't be given any more money to publicly speak, like at a speaking gig? Do you think there's a limit where it's okay to see someone who says nothing but falsehoods and inflammatory remarks and say that person shouldn't be given any more money to publicly speak? Well, no, it depends on who's paying them. I mean, if somebody chooses to have somebody who's full of shit give a speech, nobody could tell them no. They're allowed to do that. That's totally fine. At universities, when somebody comes and gives a speech, yeah, they're allowed to come and give a speech at a public university, even if they're fucking horrendous people or they're wrong about everything. They're allowed to do that. Now, if the money situation comes in, that could be different. So let's say there's a $10,000 fee for the security if some fucking big asshole right-wing guy comes on campus. Okay, well then make them pay for it. Oh, you want to give the speech? You 100% can give the speech, but you have to pay for the security. Or the group that invited you needs to pay for the security, whatever like student group it was that invited you. But in terms of letting those people speak, yeah, of course they should be allowed to speak. You can't like ban people who are wrong from speaking because then fucking 98% of people would be banned. I've heard most people I know say shit that's not true. So what am I going to do? Tell them they can't speak anymore? Top 5 movies. Oh, fuck. Lewis, why'd you do it to me? That's difficult. That really is difficult. I don't know. I'd have to think about that one. I think a long time ago I actually did a list on that, but I don't remember what I put on the top. I like the movie Tombstone. I think that's a great movie. Jaws, I think, is a great movie. I like Denzel Washington, Leonardo DiCaprio. I love them both. I love almost all things that both of them are in. But I'd have to think about that more to give you a solid answer. What is life? I don't know, but we're all doing it now, aren't we? Do you think MTL's new mayor's Pink Line project is just a load? I don't know what that means. Yeah, I don't know what that means, buddy. I'm sorry. How do we battle the perpetual neocon narrative on foreign policy? By having unapologetic non-interventionists. That's how. By the way, the American people already agree with the non-interventionists. Already agree. So, like, for example, in 2013, a poll came out, only 17% of the American people still wanted to be in Afghanistan. So, they're already with us. So it's just a matter of having politicians that represent the people and are willing to argue for that position. And right now, we have Tulsi Gabbard who's doing that, and we have Ro Khanna who's doing that. But very few other people. So we have to just get more of them in there that argue for that position. And we need to, obviously, the military-industrial complex is a big part of the problem because they fund a lot of the candidates that get elected, and then those candidates push for endless war. So we have to get money out of politics to handcuff the military-industrial complex, and we need to elect more people who will represent the people and get us out of these wars. Okay, and with that, guys, that's all I got for you. I mean, there's a lot here, and I could go through this for hours and hours and hours, but I have to piss, and now I'm kind of tired. So that's what's going to happen. I'm going to go pee, and I'm going to go lay down, and then I'm going to go to sleep. So that's that, but this was fun. All right, guys, I love y'all, and I will talk to you soon, and everybody have a great weekend. Peace.